Welcome, trendsetters. We are Alicia and Nicole from Positive Image. As salon owners, hairstylists, and business coaches, we're here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of the beauty industry and discover the secrets to creating a thriving salon business. So grab your favorite beverage, cozy up in your salon chair, and let's dive into the world of hair, style, and entrepreneurship together.
Hey, beauties. Welcome back to the Positive Image podcast and our 6-episode series on how to open a salon in Toronto. I'm Alicia.
And I am Nicole. So today we are breaking down one of the most asked questions we get as coaches and salon owners. How much does it actually cost to open a hair salon?
So, unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question because you could have 2 chairs, you could have 20 chairs, you could, I don't know, be coming with a whole group of stylists, like you just got all these besties that want to follow you, or you could just be like, I'm doing it, it's my dream. Maybe people will like me later and come follow me. Side thought. That's a little bit of my internal brain. Is like, do people like me enough to want to work with me? Maybe
Yes,
they
they do.
do. Thank you. Anyway, so we're going to try to work through some of these things that you need to think about, and then you can break it down for you, stop, replay, whatever you want to do, and you can start to figure out what your actual costs would look like and start to do some research, because research is definitely a key part too.
It's so important.
Yeah. You'll expect lots of tabs open on your phone.
Yes. So we're basically what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through all of the main expenses and we're going to give you ballpark figures for Toronto. And we're going to try and help you avoid the common surprises and that really do throw the budgets off track, just from our own experience of opening salons, moving salons, and just everything that we've gone through as a salon owner and a new salon owner too. So we're going to start with the big categories. What you're going to spend most of your money on.
So first and foremost, your lease and deposit. So that's going to be your first and last and a 1-month deposit. Your deposit is going to be different with every lease. So that's something to just think about. I think we do that in rentals too. People will take a deposit and you just
No.
you don't.
So this is where residential and commercial differ. So in residential, you can only do a deposit of your last month's rent and your first month's rent, and there might be a key deposit. But in a commercial lease, you can have a deposit. It's really up to them to tell you what the deposit is. So I know from my lease, I had to do a first, last, and then a 1-month security deposit. But it could be a 3-month security deposit, depending on the agreement that you and your landlord have. But don't be surprised if it's more than just your first and last month's rent.
Great. Next, you're going to have renovations and build out. So that's like the walls, the electrical, the plumbing, all those things that aren't pretty and fun that you think about until they're done. And then you're like, oh, okay. And partway through, you're like, this is a tragedy and I've made mistakes, but it'll work out. Next, you're going to have equipment and furniture, which brings it all together, makes you much happier. Licensing and inspections, insurance and legal, inventory and supplies, marketing and branding, software, your payroll, and any emergency fund or working capital, which is also key. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
So if you don't account for all of these things, your budget that hopefully you're making is going to collapse halfway through. So even though some of these things you might be like, why do I need to worry about software right now? Just put it in the budget. It's always better to overestimate than underestimate. So we're going to give you a bit of a breakdown cost for each thing. So leasehold improvements, which is basically you're outfitting your entire shop. Like depending on what you're doing, if you are buying a salon or renting a space that is already a salon, your kind of fit out leasehold improvement could be around $40,000. It could be upwards of $150,000 and then more, depending on how many stations that you want, how big the space is. If you have to, like, if you have walked into a brand new build and you have to put even plumbing and electrical and everything in there, it could be a very, very high price tag. So just be prepared for that one. That is going to be your biggest expense. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that you see that will spend a lot of money on, you're not going to see. Just such a hard thing.
I feel like it's just like when you're renovating a house, and you gotta like restore the foundation.
Mhm.
You're like, fantastic. That was a lot of money to like grate my homes better, I guess.
And it's all
Anyways,
covered up with drywall.
all covered up with drywall.
So equipment and furniture, you're probably looking at about $10,000 to $40,000 for that, and that's just from basins and chairs and that sort of stuff. Then you have your initial product inventory, which, depending on how many brands that you want to have in your space, could be anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. Your legal accounting fees. This would be if you are just even reviewing the lease, getting a lawyer to review your lease. If you're setting up as a corporation, you'll definitely need a lawyer or an accountant to help you with that. So it's about anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000. Then we have the business registration and licensing. You're looking to be like 200 to 500. Branding, signage. So that's like the front of sign of your salon. Branding, if you're getting a graphics artist in to help you with your branding or a branding specialist, you're looking for about 1,000 to 5,000. Website, software setup, about 1,500 to 4,000. Your initial marketing to let people know, like, hey, I'm a hair salon. Come, let me make you pretty. You're looking at about 1,000 to 5,000. And then you want to have an emergency buffer. And this is really important for any surprises that come up. And you're looking at about 10 to 20% of your total startup costs and or 3 to 6 months of your fixed costs. So your estimated costs, just to kind of open the doors, and you haven't even have your paid your first staff member, you haven't had your first client walk in, you're looking on average range between $60,000 and $250,000. It's a lot of money. It's going to be okay. Just breathe deeply and we'll get through it together.
Deep breaths.
Yeah.
I would say with that too, there's things that we plan for and there's things that we have in our, earlier episodes when we're talking about dream big and like really plan out everything that you've ever wanted. There are definitely things that I really wanted that you could not have told me not to do. And I'm not upset that I did them, but like they were a big spend that I didn't need to do. And it does benefit my space, but it's not something I needed to do. So I would really think about your budget and maybe it's something you do later, um, after you've been open for a year and it's just like on the plan. Because then there's other things like, you know, when we tore down the rooms that we had in the space, it revealed a really ugly ceiling. And so the only real option was a drop ceiling, which I absolutely hated. It would have been much more economical if I went with that route, but I didn't. I went for a very costly route. It's very pretty. It is not practical at all, but it's pretty and it cost me a lot. So there's things to think about on ways that it might drive up your cost for these surprises. Awesome. So renovations and build out. This is going to be the biggest, most expensive part of your renovations, but very necessary. Like the foundation of a house, you don't really get to see it, but it's so important so your house doesn't fall apart. So we want these things. So these are going to be our electrical, our plumbing, if we need to change the flooring, the lighting, the walls, if we just need to change everything. I know for me, there's a walk-in medical walk-in place beforehand. So I had 3 rooms that I had to tear down and rebuild the space from there. There's gonna be some things that are already done, so you don't need to renovate those things, but there are more than likely gonna be things that you need to move. Again, you can find a space that's already set up as a salon. You may still wanna change the layout, and like Nicole has mentioned in a previous episode, do your thorough check because maybe they left because it wasn't actually functioning as a salon, even though it looked like it was functioning as a salon. And you may need to do extra upgrades, or maybe you just can't do those upgrades. Again, have that extra buffer of funds because you will always go over. There will always be something surprising, and create a spreadsheet so that you already know where money's going and what you've budgeted for. But also do like a budget and an actual and then a buffer in different columns so that you have those amounts that you can move around with, and that maybe you need to take it out of a different area and compensate that way.
Exactly. And also be honest about what your limits are, like your do it yourself limits versus what you need to hire out. And I think with things like aesthetic stuff, like wallpaper, art, mirrors, try and set a higher limit for that because that is what gives the salon an ambiance. I'm not saying go and spend $1,000 on wallpaper, but art and mirrors, don't cheap out on those things, especially mirrors. It is so important. And then lastly, in this kind of area, like don't forget you need an operating cash flow after you open. Just because you have this budget for the build out and the reno, you still will need this money moving forward month after month to start paying the bills, repaying the loan even. So don't blow your entire budget before your first client walks in. I would also suggest, just from my own experience, try and talk with an architect before starting this because will probably need, especially if you have to put plumbing or electrical or move walls, you'll probably need city permits. And then the city is going to require you to have somebody who can stamp the drawings. So you already want to be working with an architect or an engineer. And even if you're going that far, consider getting a designer who has done hair salons before, because there are measurements that you will need, like the space that you need between chairs so your stylists aren't working back to back, or how many chairs you have to how many sinks that you have, what the ratio is in there. And even certain things like if there's a certain toilet or sink that you want. I ran into this when I was fitting out my second shop. Was I wanted a specific bathroom sink and I wasn't allowed the sink because of the wheelchair requirements. And I had to expand my bathroom to a larger size because they wanted to make sure, and it makes perfect sense. They wanted to make sure that somebody with a wheelchair can come in, they can lift themselves from the chair onto the toilet. They can use the chair under the sink so they're not impeding themselves. They don't have to reach forward, have a special mirror so they can see themselves, and then be able to turn their wheelchair around fully in the bathroom to leave. And we got lucky that we didn't have to install an emergency exit button that actually opens the door for you. But I know our door width for the bathroom is 36 inches, which is huge. So it's those little things that sometimes you have to take into consideration. And when, us as creative people, we're not thinking about having a 36-inch wide bathroom opening. So
100%. Amazing. So next.
So we're done the renos.
Yes. Exciting.
Okay.
Now we get to fill the space. Your furniture, equipment, and fixtures. Yay, the fun stuff. I feel like this is the fun stuff. I don't know. I'm very frugal, so I don't shop often, but I do like the feeling of shopping and like things arriving on big trucks. bringing these big boxes that you just get to unbox and just be like, yay, it's new and shiny. We get to put it out. Um, so those are your styling chairs, your shampoo units, your stations, your mirrors, your dryers, reception area, trolleys, tool storage, towels. A short thing on towels. You can choose to have your own laundry or use this laundry service. There are lots of different options. You just have to figure out what makes sense for you, especially in your space, because a lot of spaces don't actually have room for laundry versus places do. And maybe it just makes more sense to have that if you have enough people to actually do the laundry as well and help out. It does not take long to fold towels. Just throwing that out there. Also, if you do have your own laundry, you can choose to either buy out your machines outright or you can use a rental company. So there are so many different options with those kinds of things. When it comes to your equipment, you don't have to buy new everything. As much fun as it is to take it out of the shiny new box, you don't have to buy new everything, especially if you're just opening and you don't really have a long list of stylists that are coming with you or a big clientele and you're just kind of putting all your heart into it. You don't have to buy brand new everything. You can say, you know what? If this is doing amazing in 2 to 5 years, I'll change up some things. And clients love when you change things up. Obviously not dramatically, but they do love when things change. So it's a great reason to change those things later on. Anything else?
Don't cheap out on backwash units or your
Yeah.
sinks. That is
Yeah.
so important. Don't buy used because any old plumbing can just be a catastrophe, and really invest and align them. Do whatever you need to do with your backwash units. Just try not to get the super cheap ones because, yeah, they're cheap for a reason. And I have bought both. And I am so grateful that I did spend a bit of money on the backwash units when I did. So very important.
Yeah. They make a difference. And they aren't cheap to begin with. So if you're not taking the time to look at them a bit more in depth, clients will let you know every time you do a wash how they feel about them.
Oh,
And you get to hear that and just sit with it in your soul,
eight,
deep in your soul.
8 times a
Also,
day, 5 days a week.
yeah. Plus from all the other stylists working with you. And I would also say you can find replacement parts, but they're not easy to find replacement parts for shampoo sinks. And if you go to the hardware store, people look at you like you have 10 eyes. They might even specialize in the plumbing area and they still don't know what you're talking about. So, anyways, I'll stop there. No, one more. I had a plumber come to fix something in the last couple of years, and the electricians, plumbers, a lot of them, they'll send out their newer workers. It's fine. It's fine. But if you say you do commercial, don't send me a newer worker that doesn't understand that you can't put a solid pipe underneath a sink that tilts. Yes, this happened. And I literally said to the guy, I was like, that's not gonna fly. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, no, no, no. And he had to come back the next day because I called the whatever, I don't know, the person in charge. And I was like, come on. So he had to come back and get a flexible one. Anyways, there's just, okay, moving on.
Okay, so next, we're going to get into licensing, legal insurance, and admin. Kind of the ballpark with this is like 2,000 to 5,000, and this is the stuff these are the surprises: insurance, lawyers' fees, admin costs. So this is the commercial general liability insurance, business registration, and HST setup. We did do a previous podcast on this, episode 39. So if you need a bit more detail about that, go back to that podcast. Lawyers' fees for your lease review, corporation filing if you decided to go that route, public health inspection prep. So what this would basically be making sure you have an extra sink, making sure that you have all of the stuff that public health requires of you so that you can pass it, whether it's rubbing alcohol or if you do pedicures, like making sure all your foot bath stuff is properly cleaned, or you have an alcove, or whatever you need in order to pass that inspection. Your accounting software, your bookkeeping setup, those are really good to get going, and find somebody. If you are going to use a bookkeeper, find somebody that can work with you so you know exactly where to put what receipts when right away. Getting a salon booking system, so that's like your POS. So that would be your appointment calendar, having it set up with a credit card terminal. There are many, many different ones out there. And again, we have podcasts on this somewhere. Then we have your alarm set up and monitoring, and making sure that all of your alarms are in there properly. And just those are the small expenses. It's not sexy, but it does protect your business and gives you a little bit of peace of mind at the end of the day, too.
Amazing. More sexy than not sexy, is inventory, branding, and other startup costs. So your inventory, it's more than you expect. It's just more than you expect. I think when I opened 10 years ago, it was probably about $10,000 that I needed. And now to date, I'm sure I've mentioned this in a different episode, I at all times have roughly $25,000 worth of inventory in my space at all times. So this is a big expense. Make sure you have it. If you're going to have a full team, you want to have a full color line. Otherwise, they're just going to be upset with you. Branding. So having your website and your logo designed is very important. Also fun. Also infuriating. Um, I hope you're all really lucky and you have an amazing web designer and it's just magical from square one. Do not do a WordPress, anything else. I only say that as a control freak because as a WordPress and I don't know how to code. I think WordPress has gotten a little bit better, but in general, if you don't know how to code, you can't use WordPress, and then you need your web designer every time you make a change. And yeah, I mean, currently for me, I have 2 changeovers of employees. So there's like, I need to make updates on my website. So I need that tangible when I need it, and possibly at midnight when I have time to do it, not whenever somebody else who has busy with other live things has time to do it. Again, I am a control freak, so who knows? Who knows? Once that logo design is done, you're going to have your business cards and your signage. I'm going to say this other part too, because when I did open, I had someone who is an artist work with me to design my logo, but I didn't understand a brand. And there are 2 different things. So later on, I had someone who created a brand for me versus the logo. And so then my logo changed. I had all this additional, like, not necessarily verbiage, but key design points that went with my brand. So fonts, our primary colors, our secondary colors. These things just make your life so much easier when it comes to figuring out what to do on a day-to-day basis when it comes to marketing and displaying your brand. And then your brand just appears to be a bigger brand, which is nice in some ways and not nice in others. People expect more of you if you're a bigger brand. But so it's really nice if you can get someone who's going to create a brand for you versus just a $50 logo or whatever they're going to charge you to create a logo. It's a big difference. Signage, your signage can be simple. Like, for instance, I just have decals on my window. Nicole, you have a whole signage thing. You were saying it was like $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah.
A handful of years ago. So, and I believe it can go even upwards of that, even higher. So figure out what makes sense for your space. Every storefront is different. If you're in Toronto, you can apply for a facade grant. So that could be helpful also. And then your marketing, you want to get started on your marketing so that people know where you are and that you're opening, and do little teasers and like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Do a little key shake when you open your door and all the renovations happen, the before and after, all the exciting things. Start your marketing and branding before you're actually set to open, because you need people to know that you exist well before you open so that there's people there, people coming in. Ad spend, and then laundry, which we touched on earlier, but that is something you're going to want to have prepped beforehand.
And do not forget first and last month's rent and the deposit, which can be anywhere between $5,000 to $30,000 in Toronto alone, depending on your space. So that is a huge chunk of change that could take you by surprise or eat up half your budget if you're not ready for it. So funding your salon. So now we've talked about all of the money that you will spend opening the salon. How in the world do you get this money so that you can pay these bills? And there are a few different ways that you can do all of that. One way is that you can just start saving. Like you can use your personal savings and kind of dip into that. So if you are a really good saver or you have been gifted money by whomever or won the lottery, then great, you can pay for it that way. You can also get a small business loan or line of credit. You may need assets like a home, or if you've already had another business running for 2 or more years that you can show a profit with. I was able to get a loan and I was able to use a family member as a guarantor. So that helped me through the bank. There are government grants or funding Women Entrepreneurs Ontario or Futurepreneur. And Alicia, you were telling me you use Futurepreneur, so I'd love you to kind of touch on that.
Yeah, I did not have assets. So I did really appreciate the help of Futurepreneur. I don't know if things have changed. It has been a decade. But then it was anyone under 40, so I think 39 and under, that they were giving, I think it was up to $60,000. And it was a joint loan, not a grant. It was a loan from them, which was funded through the government, as far as I know, and BDC, which was nice because I couldn't get a loan with BDC. I had already actually spoken to BDC, and then they referred me to Futurepreneur, saying that they wouldn't fund me just straight off the bat. But then it meant that I had a working relationship with BDC right away. So when I needed more funding, I was just like, hey, hi. And they were like, okay. Which was really nice to have. I think that was something I probably couldn't have figured out beforehand. And I did find that the Futurepreneur process was pretty simple. They do partner you with mentors as well. That portion didn't really seem to work out, or kind of just got left behind for me. I don't think to anyone's fault. It just was that way. I met so many great other business owners, and they had tons of workshops and networking, and it was overall a really great experience as a first-time business. And also, I would say through BDC is how I first started to learn and get more interested about B Corp, so that I could, my initial thing, of course, I'm fully down for all the things that B Corp stands for, but my initial thing was learning how to run a business properly for as a corporation, so that I could also be supporting my community as well as my staff.
Amazing. And then other ways as well could be a private investor or a silent partner. If you have a rich friend, call on them. Or you can use your credit cards, but be very, very, very careful when you are using your credit cards, because 20%, or could be sometimes more, could be less depending on the credit card, but that percentage is a huge amount when you're talking tens of thousands of dollars plus. So if you are going to use your credit card, try and make sure that you have a low interest line of credit or something else that you can pay off your credit cards right away. Because using your credit cards can be awesome for points, and getting stuff on points, but just make sure you pay them off right away. Huge.
I think with that, I would say, for my mind personally, I would only take a loan above 10% if I'm desperate and I need fast cash and I'm going to pay it off fast. I think that's a good rule of thumb. 5% or lower is best, but I wouldn't want to go on a long-term loan above 10%. Just a few food for thought for anyone that is looking at loans and has never really taken out a bigger loan.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's a really good rule of thumb too, because 10% is a lot. 20% is even more. So and that needs to be, you're using your credit card, pay it off at the end of the month or whenever your end of month is, because your interest will start right then and there. It doesn't give you a longer buffer, which other loans and stuff like that do.
Mhm.
So since we're on this, let's go more into budgeting advice and surprise costs, because there are some surprise expenses that we don't plan for when we opened. I know for me, it was like I was trying to do the right thing and get city permits. My landlords are architects, so they did the drawings for me. They do not have the stamp that you can use that the city wants. And because they thought they were submitting it on my behalf, that they didn't need the stamp. So after a back and forth, I had to go and find an architect who wasn't happy that we had already started doing demolition. And it cost a lot of money. We had to stop what we're doing. It probably added an extra month onto our renovation. And he had to do the drawings, and because he had to approve everything. And then we needed to get an engineer in to do HVAC to make sure that the plumbing was done properly and everything was above board, which I really wanted to do. But because my first salon was already a salon, I didn't have to deal with all of these things. So it was a huge surprise. So I needed yeah, that ate into a lot of money. Luckily, the architect I found it was fantastic. And if anybody needs an architect name in Toronto, I'm happy to give it. But it's just these little things that are surprise costs that you don't realize that you need. What was your surprise cost? Do you have one?
Yeah, I think my one was I was talking about it earlier, is just when we took out those rooms and removed the drop ceiling. It the rest of the ceiling was like already bad enough. It was like midnight royal
Mm.
blue, and so I had to paint popcorn ceiling white several times to make it not that color. Um, but then when we removed where the rooms were and took down that drop ceiling, there were like 3 different attempts at lighting. Like, whatever the 3 different businesses were before the last one that was doing in that area. Um, yeah, of course, the first option was to do a drop ceiling, but, I I don't know. I don't know what drop ceiling did to me, but I don't like drop
Yeah.
ceiling. Maybe it just reminds me of school, just those ugly foam. And obviously, there's so many better patterns now. There are definitely lots of great options, so you don't have to have the ugly white pockety popcorn foam, whatever you wanna call it. So what I actually did instead was I knew someone at the time that was doing some woodworking from, um, leftover pallets, skids, and so he built me a very sexy, wooden drop ceiling. Fun fact, uh high-pitched voices and blow dryers
Mm. No,
don't bode well bouncing off
no.
of wood. No, no, they don't. Yeah, 10 years ago when wood in salons was really sexy, uh, I think that's why we're all moving away from the wood in our salons, because you need to have lots of soft surfaces to help compensate for all of those hard surfaces.
I don't think we had wood in our place, but I know when we moved from the first salon to the second salon, it felt so much more echoey. And because we do have a drop ceiling, and I went with just a very thin profile, plain, like it doesn't look like a typical like fully marked drop ceiling. But I didn't realize how much the acoustics can change depending on what is on your ceiling. So that actually, even, 10 years later,
Mm.
17 years later, I'm still going, that's interesting. Maybe if I had to put insulation or like a thicker foamer one, it wouldn't be as echoey or as noisy or loud in there sometimes. I also really found these cute tin ceiling tiles, but they were like $20 a tile, and I needed like 100 of them. So
Yeah.
that blew my budget.
I think that's another factor is soundproofing tiles exist. They're amazing, but they are not cheap.
And this is why we recommend adding a buffer to your budget because something will go sideways. It's just a matter of what. Who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Amazing. So, ongoing monthly costs. This is also something very key. We'll want to also have a budget for this. Things like your rent, your lease, that's a fixed cost. Your utilities, so hydro, gas, internet, phone, water, restocking your retail, your back bar, your office supplies. So, like if you're serving tea, coffee, cleaning supplies, payroll, so staff wages, your deductions, as well as just the cost for that software or the service. So, software subscriptions, so your booking software, your accounting software, any marketing things, whether that's design or scheduling, your alarm system, your POS software. Side thought, because I don't think we talked about it yet. When you have a credit card processor, debit, POS, whatever you want to call it, you want to bargain shop for that so that it's lower than 2%. 2% still isn't even great, but I'll accept that you have 2%. I want you to have lower than 2%, like 1.9, 1.6, even lower if you can get it, but usually lower than that you've been bringing in a good amount of money for a good period of time and they'll give you a lower rate. Um, but all those people paying 2 and change 3%, it's too much. It sounds like not a lot, but it is a lot when you start to add it up. Anyways, carrying on. Bargain shop. Then you got your insurance. So you want to have the business insurance, your liability. A lot of landlords will require you to have a certain amount. So keep in mind for that. That'll be in your lease agreement. Like any other insurance, if you pay for the year, you do save some money. But if it doesn't make sense for you and that cost is just too much right now, then spread it out month to month. That's okay. Every time it renews, you can change. And you can also plan to prepare to have that amount of money ready for the renewal. So figure out what works for you. You don't have to pay month to month and you don't have to pay it all at once. So there are options. The marketing. So we're going to have our ads, promotions, any email tools, digital content creations and schedulers. Your cleaning, your laundry, so towels, aprons, disinfection, and then any loan repayments. So you're going to want to add in how much you have to pay every month in loans. Even be mindful of how much you're going to have to pay in your credit card fees every month too. Into your budget because that is an ongoing expense. It doesn't always show up in your P&L, but it is an ongoing expense. So keep that in mind that that is an additional piece that you are paying for.
Exactly. And really, just knowing your expense amounts helps you set your service pricing amount. So you're not looking at what other salons are charging for a haircut. You're basing this off of your numbers, which is really, really important because you need to cover your costs and only you know what those numbers are. And it also will help you set staff goals. So, staff goals as being how much you want your staff to bring in or how many staff members you need in order to achieve all of your fixed and monthly costs.
100%.
So, lastly, we've got a few tips that's going to help you stay financially sane. because so many salons go under because of money stress. So we're going to share some of these survival tips with you. So the tip number one is track everything. Do not guess. So get a budget sheet, use your budget sheet, and go through it at the end of every month and really pay attention to what your numbers are. Are you in the green? Are you in the red? Like, are you making profit right away, or are you just drowning in expenses? Because if you're drowning in expenses, guess what? You need to raise your prices.
I would even say to that, when you're opening, I would actually track it every day, Monday to Friday, because you're buying so many things and paying for so many things, more so than you would on a regular, steady, consistent month all at once. So be on top of that.
And a good little tip for that is, because everybody has smartphones now, is get a spreadsheet on your smartphone or even just use your notes. So anytime you buy something, get into the habit of just making a note of how much you spent and what it was. And that way, at the end of the night, you can just put all of those things in. So you're not just thinking there like, oh, what did I spend today? Just do it right away. It just makes it so much easier. Okay, so tip number two is pay yourself first. I think this is the most important one. I have heard so many business owners, and not even salon owners, just other businesses, that are telling me that they are making a profit. And I said, "Oh, great. What are you paying yourself?" "Oh, I don't pay myself." Or they're the last to pay themselves. You are the most important person in the business. You, as the owner, you need to pay yourself first. And I don't think I can stress this so much, is you don't work for free. So get into the habit of being your first indebtor. So pay yourself first. So tip number three is don't overspend on Instagram role stuff. Meaning, like, you don't need the flower wall right away as a place for your clients to take a picture. If this is if this is what your business is built on, then great. And you already have a business, then great, do it. But there are so many other ways that you can spend the money initially. And if that's something that you want to save up and do, then go right ahead. But it's not a number one priority when you are building out a business. It is I've made my first $1,000. Now I'm going to take that $1,000 and create a neon sign on my wall that clients can take, or that can be recognizable. So just wait. Don't let all that budget money burn a hole in your pocket, and prioritize function. Tip number four would be hire an accountant or a bookkeeper early. I think this was my hiring an accountant was my first professional person that I hired, and a bookkeeper I did probably about 5 years in. And the bookkeeper was the best decision I have ever made. I love my bookkeeper. He is my bestie because I don't have to do the work. And it's great because he can tell me what I need to know. But that relationship is really, really important to have. And that way you keep your finances tracked, and you keep CRA off your back, that you're doing everything right and on the up and up.
It's really important to have that already set in place so you can, even if you're going to enter things yourself, you want to be a do-it-yourselfer on that. Um, just having your spreadsheets or your software set up with the accounts by an accountant or a bookkeeper, so that you can enter it as it's happening, or taking a little course or something. Just like, you want that to be done right away, because your HSD is going to come up fast. And there's nothing quite like having to figure out 3 months of HST that you still don't fully understand how it works, but you're collecting it and you definitely have spent it, how that even works when you're entering things into bookkeeping. So you want that to be started right away. It's not the same thing as lots of people with their shoe boxes and their personal taxes at the end of the year, and they just take that to the accountant and they say, "Okay, bye, have fun." They're going to be way more transactions and you want that to all be in order before you start.
Tip number 5 is do a regular profit loss review. This kind of started in the beginning with track everything, don't guess. So it's just really good, especially when you're first opening up, to make sure that you, again, know your numbers. You know if you're making money or losing money, if you need more clients, if you need to work longer hours, if the hours that you're working, like there's so many variables and numbers that you can play with. And this gives you so much information. So lastly, our survival tips is you really do need to plan for slow months, especially post-holiday, summer lulls. Like they are going to happen. You are going to have weeks that are scary looking. It's not doomsday. My mindset, I use these as my opportunities to spring clean. So I know that at least 1 week every quarter, I'm going to have to spring clean. And they do happen to coincide with after Christmas, like the last week or 2 weeks of July. There's usually like some slower periods around holidays. You're going to find your own rhythm in it, but it is expected, just as you're going to have some weeks where if you see another piece of hair or somebody else gives you a text message saying, "Hey, can you fit me in?" You're going to poke some eyes out. So be happy when the going's good and just roll with the punches when it is slow.
Let's recap. So you want to know what it really costs to open. You're going to plan a budget for your startup and your ongoing monthly expenses. You're going to keep track of all of your expenses from the get-go. You're going to make sure you are doing the boring stuff. I know it sucks, it's boring, but you really just are having meetings with people and then sharing information, and then they kind of do the stuff also. So you're fine. It's not that hard. It'll be boring. You'll get through it. It's fine. And then expect surprises, but know that you've planned your buffer for it. So when we say to plan that buffer, do it. Don't be like, nah, I did a really good budget. I'm fine. Don't do that. Do the buffer, expect the surprises, know that you've planned for it, and that you'll be good.
But more important than the number is the planning. So knowing where every dollar is going, and don't start building without a buffer. The next podcast, we are moving into creating your policies and procedures manual, also known as your salon's Bible. Hiring, time off, dress code, it all starts there. So we cannot wait to see you next time. And thanks for tuning in this time.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Take this knowledge and just keep developing yourself. And hey, we want to hear from you too. Join the conversation using our hashtag #PositiveImagePodcast. Share your thoughts, questions, and success stories. Who knows, we might just feature you on an upcoming episode. Don't keep us a secret. Tag your friends too. Want to keep learning? Check out our show notes. Find us on Instagram at hello.positiveimage, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode filled with inspiration and insights.